Brady Black's life was a chaotic whirlwind. As he sat in the back of the police car, handcuffed, he couldn't help but reflect on how everything had gone so terribly wrong. He was on his way to prison, accused of a crime he didn't commit, a crime that could lock him away for years. The thought of prison was frightening enough, but what weighed even more heavily on his mind was the prospect of losing everything he had worked so hard to rebuild. After years of battling addiction, struggling to be a good father to his son Tate, and trying to hold his life together, this felt like the most devastating blow. When the car finally stopped, Brady was yanked out roughly and led into the cold, unfeeling walls of Statesville. He was now a prisoner, stripped of his freedom, dignity, and, it seemed, his hope as well. Statesville was a dangerous place, and he knew he'd have to stay sharp if he wanted to survive. The only thing that kept him going was the thought of his son, Tate. He couldn't let Tate see him like this, couldn't let him know that his father was behind bars. Brady vowed to do whatever it took to prove his innocence and return to his son. One day, as Brady sat in the dreary prison yard, staring at the barbed wire that separated him from the outside world, he heard a voice that made his blood run cold. Brady, he slowly turned around, almost afraid his ears were deceiving him. But they weren't. Standing just a few feet away, in a worn-out prison uniform, was Theresa Donovan. For a moment, time seemed to stop. Brady blinked, trying to process what he was seeing. Theresa, the woman who had once been the love of his life, the mother of his child, was standing in front of him in Statesville prison. His mind swirled with 1,000 questions, but all he could manage to say was, "Theresa? Brady, I didn't expect to see you here," she stammered. "No kidding," Brady replied, his voice hoarse with disbelief. "What the hell happened? Why are you in prison?" Brady laughed bitterly, shaking his head. "It's a long story. I made some mistakes, a lot of mistakes, actually." Theresa shook her head, trying to comprehend it all. Brady had always been a stand-up guy, but prison? It was hard to believe. But then again, her own situation was equally unbelievable. Theresa's expression softened, and for a moment, the wall between them seemed to crumble. She reached out, placing a hand on his arm. "I'm so sorry, Brady. I know we've been through a lot, but I never wanted this for you." Her touch was familiar, reminding him of a time when things were simpler, when they were in love and dreaming of a future together. But that future had never come to be. Instead, life had taken them down separate, painful paths. Brady looked into her eyes, and for the first time in a long while, he felt a flicker of the connection they once shared. But the pain, the betrayal, still lingered, buried deep within him. "Theresa, we can't just pretend that nothing happened between us," he said softly. "There's a lot of history here, a lot of pain." "I know," Theresa whispered. "But maybe this is a chance for us to figure things out. We're both here, in this awful place. Maybe we can help each other, try to make the best of it." Brady hesitated, torn between the bitterness of the past and the possibility of finding some kind of peace. Could he really trust Theresa again? Could they rebuild anything in a place like this? "Maybe," he finally said, a small, hesitant smile tugging at his lips. "Maybe we can." And as they stood together, in the shadow of the prison walls, the possibility of redemption, the possibility of forgiveness, began to flicker, a small, fragile hope in a world that had taken so much from them both.